What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with Astrodfs bringing you a brand new video. Today's video is going over Week 10 cash plays for the main slate. So, starting it off with quarterback, I think if you can go up for Jalen Hurts, and you do want to pay up for a quarterback, Jalen Hurts is him, right? So, obviously had an injury report, I think, come up Wednesday or Thursday about an ankle injury. Concerned about his pass catchers, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert. All those guys got cleared off of the injury report. Dak, added to the IR. Dallas dealing with some injuries offensively and defensively. It does seem like CeeDee Lamb will play, but back to the Jalen Hurts side, he's just in a really good spot. Obviously, the rushing touchdowns are always there for him, although Saquon Barkley's been doing a really good job. Division game on the road. I do like Jalen Hurts. If you can pay up for him, I definitely think he's worth paying. Going down farther, Brock Purdy at 6,500 against Tampa Bay. Just in a really good spot off of a bye week. Tampa coming in off of a very short week in a very unfortunate game for them. Almost took down Kansas City with a lot of injuries. Obviously, they're the top three pass catchers, so Tampa almost did it, but Brock Purdy facing that defense to where he could get CMC, Debo, Juwan Jennings. The only person missing is Brandon Ayuk, but having someone like Ricky Pearsall back would definitely be a huge add-on for them. So kind of the first time seeing all those guys together. So Brock Purdy getting his unit back is a pretty good spot against a Tampa defense that is very, very bad against the quarterback. Going down just a little bit cheaper, Sam Darnold, 6,200 against Jacksonville. Jacksonville dealing with injuries. Trevor Lawrence now expected out. The wide receiver injuries are notorious there. Minnesota's healthy. Like, offensively, defensively, they're very healthy. We know how Minnesota gets to a hot start, make teams play catch-up. Brian Flores against Mac Jones is definitely a positive of Minnesota getting the ball back quite a bit. So I do like Sam Darnold at 6,200. I do think there is a route, though. Aaron Jones, we'll talk about shortly, is in a really good spot. Justin Jefferson is expensive, so you kind of got to pick and choose. Do you want to go Darnold, stack with Jefferson maybe, or go cheaper and go Addison? If you want the upside, you go Jefferson, or do you get Aaron Jones from that game? So you kind of got to make those decisions there. You go cheaper. I think Aaron Rodgers is playable at 5,700, although I do like Breece Hall this week. It's kind of the same thing as Sam Darnold. Do you go quarterback or wide receiver, or do you take the running back from that game? So he's definitely in play. Justin Herbert at home against Tennessee. Kind of see where Justin Herbert's been the last few weeks. Throwing the ball quite a bit, right? Definitely getting the yards, like over 200 passing yards. The last 3 games, secretly, because no one's been talking about this, thrown for over 250 yards in the last 3 games, 4 touchdowns for him. So Justin Herbert been kind of sneaky, and his price point is dropping. Like, I get the Chargers defense is dealing with some injuries, but that's not their offense. I in years past would say Cleveland's got a good defense. This year they obviously haven't. New Orleans obviously hasn't. Arizona, kind of the same thing. Playing some bad defenses, and he's just taking advantage. I wouldn't say Tennessee's defense is bad, but their offense has been so bad that you can't really judge a defense. Like I think they have enough good pieces there. I think they've played better than what they have on paper, but overall, Tennessee's defense has played poorly. Going down even cheaper, I will throw out Mac Jones, 4,400. I don't believe we're getting him. I do believe it's Cooper Rush, but Trey Lance at 4K. If for whatever reason Trey Lance gets said, things change. But if Trey Lance gets said, he's a starting quarterback at 4K. So, moving on to running backs, Alvin Kamara at 8,100. Obviously, the injuries to New Orleans offense you still have Derek Carr though. That's always a positive. And being at home. I definitely think Kamara's a cash. Saquon, I'm going to mention Saquon as a tournament. I'm going to mention him in tomorrow's video, but I will mention just I do think Saquon's in a really good spot as well. CMC, he's more. I would lean CMC more of a tournament play. Now, if you want to play the risk of paying $8K for McCaffrey and hoping he just goes back in the same role we're used to him being in game one, go for it, because this is cheap for McCaffrey. We unfortunately don't have all that. Nice. Don't have his numbers, but this is cheap for Christian McCaffrey, so at 8K, definitely worth playing. Bijan Robinson against the Saints in a really good spot, 7,700. Kind of seeing him just get on a tear lately, especially in the receiving game, has been used there quite a bit. Drake London questionable in this one. See week 4 against the Saints in a close nail biter, and he gets the receiving work in that game. Only 7 rushing attempts. We've seen a different use of Bijan lately. Obviously, Tyler Algier still gets carries, but Bijan gets red zone work a lot more than he did previously with how banged up New Orleans Saints' offense is. And that's not saying just how bad their defense is, and you trade away one of their best quarters. Bijan's in a really good spot. Breece Hall, I mentioned kind of the same thing as Minnesota. The Jets are in a really good spot all offensively. I think the running back of Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, in a good spot, although they've been leaning Breece Hall quite a bit. Last 2 games we've had Breece Hall, it's kind of been disappointing against a defense that you can run the ball against. And he averaged 5 yards a carry in week 9 against the Texans. Averaged 4.9 yards per carry. These are not bad averages. You're just not getting any touchdown. You're not getting any receiving work, which we saw previously, but that has a Devontae Adams factor. Now against Arizona, I think the Jets are in a really good spot, and Breece Hall is one of those guys. Same thing, Jonathan Taylor, talking about running backs that can run against Buffalo. Jonathan Taylor in a good spot. Obviously with Joe Flacco, the offense kind of changes, but I think overall you look at the volume Jonathan Taylor gets, because if Jonathan Taylor's not the running back, they're just not running the ball good at all. So Jonathan Taylor in a really good spot against a defense that gives up a lot of yards. Going down, I will mention J.K. Dobbins. I think you can lean Dobbins being a tournament or cash. I just kind of think when you go cheaper here and you look at someone like Aaron Jones, it's really hard to put Dobbins in that cash pool. You're either paying up for a running back or 2, or paying up and getting someone with Aaron Jones. So Aaron Jones obviously in a really good spot against Jacksonville. Kind of seeing Aaron Jones's volume, like it's him. Like no Ty Chandler, no Cam Akers. They're not making the difference. It is Aaron Jones. And the offense just hasn't looked the same recently. They were notorious for getting really hot starts. Kind of seen them struggle as of late, but Aaron Jones at his price point against a very, 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 very bad defense that runs a lot of man coverage, leaves opportunities for running backs and quarterbacks to kind of get their yards. So I will say Aaron Jones is in an amazing spot. I will mention DeAndre Swift at 6,500 against New England. Running backs have been able to run the ball against New England. That's not anything new. The issue, like Khalil Herbert gets traded, so you know for sure it's just DeAndre Swift and Roschon Johnson. And DeAndre Swift has just gotten a lot of consistent carries. If he gets the receiving work, that's usually where he sees his upside game. Obviously, it was on a touchdown streak that you could see here. Offense just looked really, really bad against Arizona, but with that, he gets included in the passing game where you see him get 6 targets in that one. So DeAndre Swift. And then we did get news that Brian Robinson Jr. is out again. So I do think Austin Eckler kind of goes into that cash if you want a pay down and run 3 running backs on the slate. Obviously, he's in another good spot against Pittsburgh. Last week, 17.3. So Austin Eckler in another good spot. Moving on to wide receiver, I think Justin Jefferson's in an amazing spot here against Jacksonville. If you want to stack him with Darnold, go for it. Obviously, you are paying a premium, but it's a really good matchup for him against a Jacksonville defense that gives up a lot of yards to wide receivers. They run man coverage, and Justin Jefferson is amazing against man coverage. I do think now Devontae Smith is just unplayable with A.J. Brown in, right? For the price point, right? Like, if Devontae Smith is cheaper in the mid to low 6K range, Devontae Smith is playable. I'm assuming DraftKings thought Devontae Smith was not playing, or A.J. Brown was not playing, so that's why they priced Devontae Smith up, but he's kind of not playable at his price point. So A.J. Brown is a good stack with Jalen Hurts. Obviously, you're paying a very high premium, but the upside is there. He gets hurt last week, 4 targets. We've seen him get low targets pretty much throughout this season. That's just how he's kind of been banged up. But he's gotten 80-plus yards in all those games except for last week where he got banged up against Jacksonville and missed pretty much the second half. Continuing to go down, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams. Either one of those guys are playable if you want to stack them with Rodgers. Obviously, 72 and 7,000 for Rodgers. Rodgers' price is not bad. If you want a triple stack, go for it. I don't have a problem with that either. We've seen both these guys have success against Houston. 22 points for Devontae Adams. And then you go to Garrett Wilson, and he's got 30. So I definitely think there's a scenario to where both guys have success again. Although, like I mentioned, I do like Breece Hall this week as well. George Pickens against Washington, I kind of think is a sneaky play. With Marshawn Lattimore getting traded, he's not going to play in this one. I do think it's a pretty interesting spot for Pickens. I don't think it's a cash play, though, because you get, I don't know how I just went over Deebo Samuel at 6,900, but Deebo Samuel at 6,900 against Tampa Bay, right? I definitely think paying for Deebo is an option. I will say Brian Thomas Jr. is playable. Granted, I know it's probably going to be Mac Jones. I'll lean more towards a tournament play, but I will throw out Brian Thomas Jr. 6,600 in that one. It does seem like Drake London will play, so Darnell Mooney kind of gets out of cash. I still think he's an amazing tournament play. Josh Downs, I think, is a easy cash play now with Michael Pittman being out. I will say on the Buffalo side, we already got Keon Coleman out. Amari Cooper has been limited. We saw him last week not play, and it could be back-to-back weeks without him, so that's a huge blow for Buffalo's offense. But Josh Downs at 6,200 without Michael Pittman. I mean, we just see the targets this year with Flacco, and they are very, very high. So even last week against Minnesota, still sees 9 targets, 6 for 60. Obviously, doesn't have a crazy good game. If you're paying $6K for 12 points, doesn't really pay off, but I think he's in a really good spot. I will mention Khalil Shakir. If Amari Cooper is out, Khalil Shakir is in a really, really good spot then at 6K. Ladd McConkey at 5,900 against Tennessee's in a really good spot, especially if you want to stack him with Herbert. It's a very, very cheap stack there. I like that one. I will mention DeAndre Hopkins against Denver. Although Denver has played wide receivers pretty well this season, we just saw him get destroyed, absolutely destroyed last week. So DeAndre Hopkins did not get price adjusted because of the Monday night game where he goes off for 28 points, 8 for 86. So I think he's in another good spot, and his price wasn't adjusted. So definitely throwing that one out there. I will throw out some other names. I'll talk about them again in the tournament, but I do think you can get them in cash. Jordan Addison, cheaper stack with Sam Darnold. Juwan Jennings at 5,100 against Tampa Bay, I think, is also stackable if you wanted to double stack with Purdy. Honestly, I do think that is playable. And then going down, I know there was someone, Adonai Mitchell here at 3,400, right? Pittman out, so it'll be Pierce, Mitchell, and Downs at 3,400. I kind of think he stands out to me. We know you see his fantasy points. They haven't been much of anything, but the deep ball threat that he does hold could definitely, especially at his price point. Like if you're paying 3,400 for a guy that can get a 60-yard touchdown and pay off in your lineup, like it's Mitchell. So definitely throwing that one out there as well for cash. Moving on to tight end. Tight end is kind of odd this week. I think paying up for Kelsey is viable if you can. Paying up for Kittle is viable if you can. Paying up for Otten is viable if you can. If we're starting to get cheaper, Dalton Kincaid at 4,900 stands out to me. Dallas Goedert now stands out to me at 4,500 being healthy. You could go the Taysom Hill route with the wide receiver injuries for New Orleans. Kind of see him last week. 16 points. You see him get 5 targets for 41 yards. Gets 5 rushing attempts for 19 yards. So does get a touchdown, which obviously helps. And now in another good spot at 4K. So definitely think his price is not too high for the outcome that he has. Juwan Johnson, same thing. Kind of think he's playable just because of the injuries with New Orleans. And that's, as of right now, it for tight ends. I don't think there's much of any injuries. Defenses, looking at it, the defenses I'm honestly looking at, right, is Patriots against Chicago. Obviously, New England's lost some of their players defensively, either through trade or injury. Chicago's got some injuries to their offensive line, both offensive tackles out. Caleb Williams kind of struggling as of late, so Patriots at 2,500 continue to go up. I will say that the Bears at 3K are easily as playable with how bad New England's offense has been. You have a rookie quarterback, and the Bears defense has definitely paid off every now and then in terms of where their price has been. So definitely think targeting either one of those is definitely playable on this slate. Obviously, if you want to save some money, you're going New England at 2,500. But I'll always say, you can play any defense. I don't care. All it takes is one touchdown, and that defense pays off. Like, they could give up 30 points. You get a touchdown, you get 6-7 points, pays off, right? You get a sack, adds on, a pick, adds on. But if you get a touchdown, it pays off. And that's just not defensively. You can get a special teams touchdown. It pays off. So it's always random for defenses. You just find a cheap defense and hope they stay in the positive, right? So hope you guys did enjoy the video. Like I said, I will have the tournament video going out tomorrow. If you guys are interested in my entire pools of cash, tournament value, my bets and props for each, the showdowns, the primetime games, the main slate, my bets and props, those will be posted in there. And we have our FanDuel as well. So if you guys are interested in any of that, check out our website. The link for that will be in the description down below. Very cheap subscription package. And I will see you guys in the next one.